Automation Insiders. We are thrilled to have a foremost thought leader in intelligent automation join us today. Cristina Duta, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. So for our listeners out there, Cristina has a rich background in automation from well-known companies such as Accenture, IBM, and in her most current role, she is the Director of Intelligent Automation for AECOM. Cristina, we also extend many congratulations to you on becoming an executive committee member on the Intelligent Automation Congress. Well done for that. I love one of the references that y'all have in the About Us section. I call it a tagline. I guess you can call it anything, but it says, making automation a real business asset. I love that. That really resonated with me. And in our discussion today, we'll unpack that a bit more, what that actually means in practicality and how you apply a lot of these buzzwords you hear in the industry to businesses today. So Cristina, we'll just jump right in. Tell us a little bit more about yourself and your current company and role at AECOM.
Sure. So I'll start by saying that I started as a software developer a long time back, and my background is more focused on the technical side. I easily advanced into the space. Okay, there's something more out there. So then I jumped into the RPA and started working through my roles. I started as a developer, then I grew into a technical lead, and then I reached out into leading multiple teams. And here I am finally at the Global Center of Excellence with AECOM. I do want to mention that as most companies actually do this, AECOM is also having the intelligent automation COE driven by GBS. So we are actually in GBS and I'm part of GBS. And we started with automations, especially in finance, because we've been through a finance transformation program. Overall, except for this, I am extremely keen in being part of communities that focus on research and try to drive more growth and more innovation into this space of automation. So I usually stay in touch with a lot of people and participate in a lot of workshops that help us to understand, okay, where are we going and what's next for automation?
Fantastic. That's a very rich background. And one area that I see that you're a part of is the Vocal Council, where you get together with many different executive committee members and thought leaders in this space to strategize on how we actually do make automation a business asset. What's been your experience being a part of the Vocal Council as of late?
I do want to shout out to Shale for actually creating the Vocal Council. I believe it's one of the most open and supportive communities I've been in so far. It's actually really helpful to be able to engage with other leaders to discuss about your current challenges, what are some of the lessons learned that they have, and somehow gather a little bit more of a consent on where is everybody throughout the market itself, right? So it's been a wonderful experience, and we do hope this continues to be like this.
Excellent. Excellent. So let's jump right into some of the core questions. And thank you for giving us some interesting facts about your background and your experience kind of growing up, per se, in the automation space, starting as a developer. I know with any individual that is starting their career in technology, it's very interesting to see it from the full perspective of the business, right? So starting as a developer, understanding what it's like to actually be a developer and or an architect, being a part of a center of excellence, right? Having a voice in the overall business to how to actually make a broader impact for the company in the realm of automation. So thank you for sharing that. So Cristina, what would you say is the biggest difference between traditional automation, right? Much like robotic process automation or any type of business process management tools, and intelligent automation or intelligent process automation? And why does that delineation or difference matter as companies look to deploy an automation solution?
So if we were to think about the fact that when we talk about traditional automation, we usually talk about, let's say, very repetitive, task-based, rule-based, low-level tasks, right? So we're looking only at the simplistic aspect of what automation can do. Whenever we talk about intelligent automation, the key differentiator is the fact that we can handle more dynamic and high-level processes from an end to end, and you can actually add more insights and more data-driven and more recommendations for your business optimization. So for me, when I say intelligent automation, it's actually referring to a wider spectrum of technologies that can actually help us to take better decisions, be more perceptive, and actually even changing and transforming the way we develop our business models, right? So I'm looking at it from, let's say, simply shifting from manual tasks, very simplistic, to more sophisticated, intelligent type of systems that would, in the end, change us and help us to achieve our goals as an organization.
Yeah, and from our experience and exposure in interfacing and working with executives across multiple different organizations, the move from traditional automation to intelligent automation can be quite exhausting at times, right? Especially if you don't have a center of excellence built out and have executive buy-in and support for moving forward in that type of strategy. So I can only imagine that it needs to be all hands on deck to really understand the true business value of intelligent automation and the impacts it can have internally and externally, especially when you look at the overall customer experience, right? And how will this impact the customers, partners, and vendors that you work with? So that is fascinating, and it's definitely something that I believe a lot of organizations are leaning into right now. So thank you for that response.
I would add in mentioning exactly what you accentuated, Nathan, the fact that you do need to have the stakeholders buy-in and the executives understanding what automation and intelligent automation is, because sometimes we jump just from the fear of missing out on certain things and not necessarily think it through from a, let's say, strategic perspective. Why do you want to have intelligent automation within your company? What does it solve? So I think it leads back to the idea that we, as people that lead different organizations and different technology systems and so on, to educate ourselves in what is there and what makes sense for us as an organization.
You know, and to jump on both of your points, the conversations, I have these similar conversations with stakeholders on a daily basis, and sometimes it's a daunting task to have a something that's brand new to them as far as intelligent automation introduced into their platforms or existing platforms or legacy software. And you look at organizations that have historically older technologies, such as insurance and fintech, and it's almost very intimidating for executive buy-in to do a massive overhaul on their systems. But luckily for intelligent automation, we don't require a huge overhaul. We just require connectivity and integration to be able to help streamline some of these processes. So, you know, that's something I'm seeing all the time, and it makes the buy-in a little bit easier to digest with executives and these stakeholders. So to your point, it's definitely something that I feel like is easing in a little bit more, but we still have some buy-in left to go. Well, I can take I can kind of move on to the next question here, Cristina. So, and I want to focus on unstructured data. You know, what can...
That's challenging.
Tell me about
it. Or you want to start on that?
Well, it's something that Nathan and I talk about on a daily basis. So, you know, I think that look, AI is a big buzz right now, but unstructured data is something that I think that can be intimidating to a lot of organizations. But again, it's something we talk about on a daily basis. But just out of curiosity, in your opinion, what can document understanding do for companies today that have mass amounts of unstructured documents and data?
As I was mentioning, unstructured data, I think for every company is so difficult to access, to analyze. And that's because, again, we didn't think of these when we started something, right? So the systems, technologies, and so on, the concept of data-driven and having accurate data and quality data came in later on as the technology evolved, right? So for us, it's lack of standardization right now everywhere. We're looking at the unstructured formats, unstructured layouts, and everything like that. So I would say that having the technologies and the tools that allow us to use different techniques, such as natural language processing, OCR, applying IA as well, and machine learning, and being able to actually classify and extract that information, it's going to be something that is a game changer. And why am I saying that? Because we have so much unstructured data across the companies, and it's not just in one function, it's across all of the functions. So you can get a better understanding of your organization if you're able to get insights from those particular unstructured data. So when I'm thinking, and whenever I, let's say, pitch back and saying, okay, why would we need document understanding? What is the purpose of it? Why should we try a solution that would help us to do that? I'm always thinking about the fact that you improve the data quality. So you have something that's going to extract it, it's going to identify your patterns and your relationships, and it's going to eliminate the inconsistencies and the errors in your data. So that's a quick win. Then you're looking at the fact that you can improve your operational efficiency and productivity, because the time that a human spends in actually copy pasting the data from different type of documents, or trying to hear something from the audio or look at a video, it's going to take much more time than having the technology that's going to do that for you. And you can reduce your cycle times and your costs, right? Which everybody looks at. How can we reduce costs across the organization? And last but not least, I always tell, go back to your customers, because customers are our stakeholders, right? So we want to make sure that we improve customer satisfaction and we actually increase the loyalty with everything that we're doing. Having the capacity of delivering faster to them whenever we work with them and try to meet their expectations, but at the same time, being able to have smarter decision making based on that data that we just tapped, it's actually going to allow you to do new value propositions for them. So you gain a new business for your organization. So I do believe that if you have a document understanding capabilities and you unlock the value of your unstructured data, you can actually transform your business processes, improve your customer experience, and gain a competitive advantage.
It's so well said, and you know, going on the ROI perspective of having this intelligent understanding, when you think of it on a supply chain side, with cost of goods being exponentially more expensive year over year right now, to be able to save an organization, conservatively speaking, even 1%, when year over year I'm seeing averages of 8 to 15% on the enterprise level. 1% can easily be a 9 and 10 figure number. And so to have intelligent document understanding and processing is, I don't want to call it an easy win. It's an easy ROI it's an easy ROI that can be visualized, and the impact is just seen right away. So I'm so glad you touched on that.
Yeah, and you can also even take a look at the contract workers that the organization has employed, 1099 contract workers, what have you, right, that are actually in this data day in and day out, right, from the moment the document is ingested into the organization, and then analyzing how much time and effort is on that specific document, analyzing the SLAs, right, internal and external, what's the processing speed or that we need to respond to the customer or vendor, right, with that associated data in the document. So all those are, I'm sure, factors, especially even in AECOM, right, that you have to think through and understand where is that this actual ROI coming from, and is this time savings? Are we giving, are we saving money? Whatever it may be, I'm sure that's a part of the overall process, right? So there's various different ways to look through it. And one way, Cristina, that I've always approached this is thinking of this as a continual refinement process, right? It's not just about one goal. It's not just about two goals. It's about how do these goals compound on one another to create a holistic end-to-end process that you're constantly refining again and again and again to produce a better output. I've constantly told my client base that, look, I want to be able to, and it's an analogy, right, or a saying, however you want to look at it, but it's like putting a magnifying glass up to that document or up to that data, and you can see it so much clearer, right, than you could before. And what does that actually mean to the business as a whole? So we've definitely seen an evolution over the last decade, if not just the last 1 to 2 years, right? Lots of ebb and flow, but exciting things from a technology standpoint happening. So we can move on now. So at a high level, however you would like to respond to this based off of your career and what you've seen ever since you've been an RPA developer, right? Just over the years, what does this concept of democratizing AI mean? One thing that I am very careful to do is use these buzzwords, right? That people like to hear, but in reality, can you actually apply them practically to your business, right? It's one thing to say it and another thing to actually be able to do it. So I'm sure people have talked to you about democratizing X, Y, and Z, and now we're on this AI kick, right? And everyone wants to democratize AI. So what does that mean? And from your perspective, Cristina, and can it actually be accomplished within an organization?
I do want to mention exactly the same. It's a buzzword, that's for sure. And it is realistic, but not 100%. So I'll start by putting that because there's a borderline, and I can tell you briefly about the opportunities that I see by using the democratization of IA. But at the same time, we can talk about what are the challenges, because it doesn't come without challenges. But if I were to put it out there, what do I understand by this and what does it mean? I think it means making artificial intelligence understandable and accessible for everybody. Doesn't matter if you have like a PhD in computer science or you have a supercomputer in your basement or anything like that. So it means to actually being able to empower each individual and each business to use the IA technology without requiring extensive technical experts or, let's say, a particular type of knowledge. So it's very simplistically the way we can, let's say, put it out there. And we can do that by making sure that everything that comes in terms of trends, technologies emerging out there on the market, it's focused on creating and sharing open source frameworks and tools that makes IA very easy to develop. We're talking about providing online courses, tutorials, competitions, communities, because we need communities that educate and empower people to learn and apply these skills. We also need to be able to understand how does this map with us as humans and as nature, right? So how do you develop ethical principles? Because this is a challenge. How do we develop the guidelines and how do we create responsible, let's say, IA for the social good and not for the evil? Because that's one of the borderlines, right? And how do we actually make sure that we use all of the people out there and we integrate them into this? Because if me as a researcher or as a developer, I'm learning it, I also want the business, the government, the civil society to learn it as well, right? Because otherwise it's going to be a gap in between us. So I do believe it can be accomplished by using various means, but at the same time, think about the challenges. And I'm thinking about the challenges because this is right now very hot as a topic. And again, it's something that everybody is looking at. How do we ensure the data quality and security? How do we protect the privacy and integrity of the data sets that we use and we use for the trainings and for the models, right? How do we maintain human oversight and accountability on the decisions? How do we ensure that IA is transparent, it's explainable, it's fair, it's auditable? Because we always say that trust is a two-way street, right? So we need to trust the technology and the technology needs to trust us. So that's the most difficult part. So, and it's also about how do we manage the skill gap? Because if we put IA in place and we democratize it, right? What is happening with the job displacements? How do we teach people? What do they do to move on from this one? And how do we actually train them to be adaptable to this changing work environment? Because it's going to change very fast. And it's because we know that learning never stops. So it's very important to think, let's say, in the two sides. You should be curious, you should be applying an effort in democratizing IA, but at the same time, focus on mitigating the risks that may come as we do this. So that's why I said we're not 100% there, but I'm quite sure we're on the right track of doing something.
Yeah. And sorry, David, just one quick comment. I really think that the having the knowledge worker in your mind, like how does this affect the knowledge worker and how can they actually take this advanced technology and use it for good, right, in their own environment? And a question that we'll get to towards the end of our session with you is really the human in the loop, or the human involved in this overall automation process, and the impact humans still can have to work alongside AI, right? So we'll get to that more later, but David and I both believe that's imperative still, to have the human involved, and I'd love to get your feedback on that too. But David, over to you.
No, what was interesting is I have the ethical conversations with my colleagues all the time, and with clients all the time, on where are we going? What we've seen right now from ChatGPT 3 to 4 is an enormous jump in such a short amount of time. And what we've seen going back even 5 years to what AI was to what it is today, and now exponentially seeing the growth. And now you could almost equate it to how quickly the NFT adoption was last year, and how everybody knew what an NFT was. Prior, no one had a clue what it was, and now everybody is on the AI train. But at the same time, ethically speaking, we're still all kind of shrugging our shoulders as far as where are the regulations coming from, who's going to put the standardizations in place. And these are conversations that I have all the time. We're all excited about AI, but we also are thinking about, okay, well, job skills are going to start to change to adapt to AI now, because to be honest, AI is going to take the place of many job titles out there. So ethically speaking, I think we have a long way to go in standardization, but it's still quite exciting. And overall, I think overall I think we all see this as a huge positive moving forward. It's something that we need to embrace. It's something that will absolutely help civilization and society as a whole. But again, there's still all those question marks. So yeah, it all spurs really interesting and sometimes difficult conversations. And why don't
it's not us, David, it's not us, it's the new generations, because
Yes.
they all have that knowledge, and it's so easy for them to learn it. So that's where we should look into. You have these new generations coming so fast and catching up on the technology, while we're still trying to figure it out, the part, or okay, how do we apply it to the organizations, how we're working. It's a good side, because you have a lot of people and have a pool of skills that didn't exist previously on the market.
I love the perspective. And yeah, I might be dating myself a little bit. I'm okay where I'm at, but yeah, it's my children's civilization that are really going to make are really going to see the future impact. And yeah, it's just all very exciting. So I'll move on to the next question, if that's okay. Cristina, what are some signs internally that an organization would need to start doing some homework on, as far as vendors and options when they're looking at IPA solutions?
Probably I would say that when you realize your organization is struggling to actually keep up with the pace of the change in your industry. If you're in a specific industry and you realize that you don't have an advantage anymore, I think you should look into it. So probably some of the signs that would trigger the idea, okay, it's time to move and understand how we can apply process automation, how should we look at vendors, would be related to looking at your overall operational capacity. Do you have a lot of manual, repetitive, low volume tasks that consume a lot of your time and your resources? Is your organization, for instance, experiencing a sudden surge in workload, right? And your employees cannot keep up with the demand. You should definitely consider looking at solutions that would free up that time for them. If your processes are still complex and very dynamic, and you need some data analysis to be able to drive faster decisions and to move beyond the traditional, let's say, tools and systems that you have, you should start looking into some of these solutions. Again, if you're facing errors in terms of quality control, if you're facing a lot of delays in what you do, look at how you can improve accuracy and consistency within your processes by leveraging different vendors. It's also about the amount of data we just talked about, right? Unstructured data. So if you have a lot of unstructured data that you're actually not leveraging, try to see how you can generate insights from it. What should we use for that, right? So, and in the end, it's also about scaling. If you struggle to scale as an organization, right, when the demand is growing for you, you definitely should be looking into vendors that would be able to enable your organization to scale up very easily. So I would say that it is very important to do a homework on the vendors and put them through different, let's say, layers when you decide to choose a vendor, and make sure that solutions that you actually choose are right for your organization needs, because what fits for me as an organization may not fit for you. So it's all dependent on the needs and the business challenges you actually want to solve by adopting these technologies.
Really quick, just a follow up to this that I was kind of thinking of, what are some red flags that you would kind of think about when interviewing some of these vendors?
One, depends on the type. If they're not interested in understanding my business challenges, it's one of the red flags for me. The second one is I always follow one of the ethoses that I learned actually from IBM, which is know your client, right? When you come into a meeting with your client, you need to understand who you're talking to, what is their maturity, what is their digital experience, what kind of tools do they use. So do your research properly and then show them the value that you can add for them. So that's how I'm looking at it. If you come unprepared and if you don't know anything about my business and what we're doing and what technologies we use, it's another red flag. And last but not least, it's not the idea of me telling you what I need. It's about you guiding me in understanding that I need you to actually bring something for me. So it's not oh wait, what do you need from me? I don't work like that. I do believe it is important for you to guide me and show me that I need you.
Yeah, that's very well said, and I know David and I deal with that, and we've had those discussions multiple times a week, right? And it's really like you said, Christine, it's knowing your client, it's knowing their background, and most importantly, I believe one of the most important parts coming away from that first discussion is to say, okay, I understand holistically your tech stack, but the question that needs to be answered from my perspective, and I'd love to see if you would say this is true as well, is what is it that the tech stack today cannot solve that you want to achieve in the future, right? I work alongside many organizations who have 3, 4, 5 different automation solutions. And the question in my mind is, why are you looking to add another one, right? What can your tech stack that you have today not accomplish? And are you looking to add something additional for, an additional spend? I know the finance and procurement departments love if they can consolidate, right? Less payments out to vendors, right? So is there a way that we can consolidate, or are you looking for a solution that can be the glue to help connect all the other solutions together in a way that those solutions can't solve for it themselves? So understanding that can, I think, better help your organization be successful and help them along that journey. So would you agree to that?
I do agree because in the end, we all want to build an end-to-end enterprise ecosystem, right? So if we're able to put in together the technologies that we already have with the new ones and being able to have a streamlined workflows that go through that and being able to show the ROI at the end, that's the end goal for everybody. And it's very important to talk exactly about this. Is it just for a particular challenge? Because that's when you need the alignment in terms of vision and strategy. If you just buy a tool to fulfill only one need, which let's say sits in source to pay or something like that, then you lose the sight of what that tool can actually do for other departments or even across finance. So it's very important to look holistically how a solution is going to help you and not a, let's say, point solution only for this because this is my problem. Try to see it a little bit broader. That's what I usually tell whenever we decide to, let's say, go on a pursuit of a partner or a vendor that is going to be working with us.
So you would say it's more about a dynamic platform than a point solution, right? Something that can encompass the business as a whole, especially when you're looking at spend, right? For the CFO, I would say for any organization to approve off on any project that's that a larger project, right? They want to see it's impacting more than just one department, right? There's multiple departments that will be impacted. David, would you like to comment, or are we good to move on?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, the goal, I think when Nathan and I both take calls is, we always want to become the enterprise standard solution. That's what we want. We want to maybe even hold discovery workshops to figure out how we can actually become that enterprise standard across the board. And it's not, of course, we want to do well on one use case that the enterprise might be thinking of, but of course we want to hold workshops to figure out, hey, where else can we make a huge dynamic difference and become that standard solution enterprise wide. So I mean, I think it's asking the right questions, and sometimes it does take a workshop to get from point A to point B.
So that's a great transition, David, to talk a little bit more about your work at AECOM, Cristina. So however you would like to respond to this is completely fine for our listeners to just truly understand what it means internally within a large global organization such as AECOM. How do you move from this conceptualization of intelligent automation to practical implementation? Do you have any advice to our listeners based off of your experience?
I'm going to start by saying I have inspirational leaders. And that's one of the best things of this organization, because we started from a very clear vision and strategy. We defined and we let the people in our organization define the strategy for our GBS. And from that, we actually started building the strategy for intelligent automation. We are able to very clearly define what is our scope, what is our objective, what do we want to achieve, what is our roadmap. And everybody was part of this change and transformation from the beginning. And that's how they actually felt as being a part of something bigger. So we started identifying the problems and the opportunities, right? Like, what type of processes do you have? How do we standardize, globalize our processes? How do we rationalize them? What type of workflows do we want to put in place? Where does data fit in? Where does intelligent automation fit in? How do we fill in the gaps, and what are the main pain points we are trying to actually resolve with building an intelligent automation journey and building an ecosystem? So we actually started from that. And for us, it came very naturally to have 3 different directions when we talked about the strategy, one being on people, one being on process, and one being on technology. And I relied in the last one, which was related to technology. So we actually went into the idea of, okay, how do you choose the right technologies, right? Because there are so many out there, and we all know there are so many technologies available for intelligent automation, but you need to understand, again, what are your challenges? What are your organization needs? What are you trying to solve, right? So we took the time in actually researching, evaluating multiple options before we took a decision. We considered the capabilities. What are they covering, right? Are they covering BPM? Are they covering RPA, ML? What are they covering in terms of this? We thought about compatibility, because we have an enterprise system already. You have a technology stack. How is that easily integrated with what we do? We thought about scalability. Where do we want to be in 5 years? What is our goal for the next 5 years? Is this technology going to be able to support us from a scalability perspective? And then it comes to the idea, okay, we're good on the scalability and on all of this. How do we ensure security? Because it's a critical component that every organization is looking at. So we sat together and understood, okay, which is the best from a security perspective? And last but not least, the cost, but that isn't the one that actually necessarily was on the main list, because for us, it was more important to understand overall the capabilities, the compatibility, the scalability, and the security. And as soon as we were able to decide on those technologies, we started developing a strong business case to get the buy-in from all our stakeholders. So we explained why do they need to invest in intelligent automation. We put data, we put metrics, and we demonstrate what are the potential benefits of actually doing this. And we started, and I always tell people this, start small and think big. We started by taking and doing small automations and iterating as we were going and growing, because in this way we minimize the risk. People did not trust, let's say, the potential of automation at the beginning, so you needed to build the trust. And we did that by starting small and building pilots. And step by step, we were able to build a team, and we have a good governance structure around it. And for us, it includes stakeholders from various domains. So we have, for instance, stakeholders in technology, in process improvement, and especially in change management, because this is something that takes place at a global level. So it's very important to understand how change is applied and how people are actually going to shift from what they're currently doing to another role. So building that team allowed us to have a very quick alignment whenever we needed to take key decisions, but also to collaborate and make sure that people are accountable for what we do. So we weren't alone standing against, let's say, other people that were not eager to change or resistant to change. And afterwards, the team itself built up and we started delivering automations. One thing that I mentioned to people, be agile, always develop and deliver in an agile method, because it allows people to understand more and more of what automation can do. And it gives them more sense that this is not against them, but it is for them as a technology, right? And we always measure, because in the end, everybody, when you go back to the CFO or anybody else, they're going to say, okay, how is the performance? How is the metrics? How is it going? So we monitor, measure, and optimize everything that we have. And it's very important to us because you already mentioned, this is not something that we just check. Intelligent automation, it's not a destination, it's a journey. We improve as people, intelligent automation technologies and the COE and everything else and deliveries improve as we improve as people. So I think it's mainly about the vision, the strategy, finding the right people that have that mindset of actually building something innovative, selecting the technologies, looking at how you can actually build a business case and try to deliver it incrementally. And from that onwards, effective communication for sure, because everybody needs to be aware of what's happening and understanding that any changes and concerns can be addressed along the way. So allow people to be part of the change together with you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Cristina, for that wonderful explanation. And I think for our listeners, that is going to be so helpful, especially those that are trying to produce change internally for their organization. And it feels like they're trying to capture a whale, right? When really they just need to capture a handful of fish and let that journey begin. So that's a wonderful walkthrough. And what I also hear too is it is a journey. As you said, it's not a destination, it's a journey. And as organizations such as vendors work with organizations such as AECOM or other large enterprise companies, they need to remember that, if I'm hearing that correctly, that it's not just about that project, that there is a lot of work that is unseen from the vendor side on what is happening internally within the organization to actually get this to happen and to transpire. So our hats are off to you all there at AECOM and any enterprise organization, whether mid-market or commercial, that is attempting to walk through this process of implementing an intelligent automation solution. It definitely is a lot of work and a lot of people that need to be involved. So thank you for that response. So David, we'll pass it over to you. I think you're on mute.
Oh, I was on mute, pardon me. No, I couldn't agree more. It's a lot of these conversations, a lot of people want to be able to adopt intelligent processing or AI in general into their businesses, but they don't really have a place to start. So by having the framework by whoever you're working with to be able to take you through the process and show you the capabilities or the art of the possible is something that's really important. And to really break down how the process is going to look and even have, again, I'll go back to this discovery workshop. It's the art of the possible, being able to find ways to integrate new technology that everyone wants into their business and find new ways, exciting ways to really help their business be streamlined and more efficient. So yes, Cristina, that was very well said, and I couldn't agree more. One last question from my side. I want to kind of take a step back into not really the ethics portion, but essentially, how do you see the relationship between humans and machines, but in a way of evolving in the construction and the construction and engineering industry? And what role do you see AECOM playing in this future?
So I think there are so many possibilities when we talk about the collaboration. It's already started, right? So if we're thinking about RPA and simple RPA, everybody's collaborating with human in the loop in certain pieces. So it's not necessarily only related to that. Whenever I'm looking at, let's say, near future on how this collaboration would look, I'm thinking about the fact that we can somehow enhance the human creativity and productivity because we can allow, let's say, the humans to be assisted by IA in solving some of the, let's say, complex problems and generating new ideas. So think about constructions, think about engineering, think about business, back office functions, right? So all of that is going to be performed much, much faster. And another part that's very interesting is the fact that they can also teach us, right? So you can learn from the way that they react to new input. It's much, much faster than we learn as humans. Except for that, I'm always thinking the fact that they can give back recommendations. So in a way, it is enabling us more to focus on the creative side. And something that matters a lot with everything that's happening in the world, with the war, with COVID, and with everything else that's going to come, because again, the future is unpredictable as we've seen through the last couple of years. I think people are focused on well-being. So with the human-machine collaboration, we will be able to improve that because we can reduce the human workload, we can reduce the stress, which is important, we can reduce the errors, and then you actually shift to a work environment that's more human-centric that you actually believe, because it fosters the idea of diversity, inclusion, collaboration. So I see, let's say, more the benefits oriented towards the human side whenever we talk about the collaboration. And one of the, let's say, main opportunities that I'm looking at there is also to ensure that this is like a, look at it with curiosity and wonder. Don't close the doors on what it means and try to have an open mind and embrace the possibilities of what this can bring. Because I do believe this is just the beginning of what we can build by this collaboration between humans and machines.
So true. It's so true. And it's almost, I mean, look, I'm old enough to remember when I didn't have internet to having internet, and it was the greatest thing in the world. But yet, when the internet first came, I guess, socially acceptable, no one really knew how to use it appropriately. It was very much the wild, wild west. And I think we're all trying to find our bearings as far as what the future holds with humans and machines. And right now, it's all kind of up in the air, but at the same time, it's just super exciting, like we've spoken about in the past. But there's so many possibilities out there that we just need to discover.
Hey, and recently I asked my kids, so how do you hold a cell phone? We're talking about the internet and the evolution of the internet. Well, let's start with the evolution of the cell phone, right? And what's happened just over the last decade or more. So I asked my kids, how do you hold a cell phone? I think two of them did this, right? And then one of them did this. And I was like, where did you get this from? Like, where's that? And I started to think about me and like, how do I act like I'm holding a cell phone? And I do this, right? It's like, why do we do that, right? And it's because, just thinking of the phones and how they've progressed, it was just funny when we asked my kids how you hold a cell phone. But times have definitely changed, because now it's definitely this, right? So, or this, yeah, just looking at it. So that's right. It's all about texting these days. So all right, so we have time for one very last question with you, Cristina, and we've mentioned it in our show a couple times today. ChatGPT, right? You ask people, have you heard of ChatGPT? And it's kind of a 70-30 response, 70 being no, 30% being yes in the common public, right? I think you're starting to see more and more adoption and understanding what is ChatGPT. In the technology world and with colleagues, everyone knows it, right? But maybe your friends don't know it, right? Maybe those that don't work in technology, they're what ChatGPT? I've never heard of that. But it's common for us, right? So with this concept of ChatGPT now becoming or democratizing, right, ChatGPT into organizations, what does that process look like today? And what is the associated impact it can have within organizations if deployed correctly? And keep in mind, I know we're at the very beginning stages of this, so this is going to evolve. But from your perception and what you've seen, what do you think that in forecasted impact could look like?
I do believe that ChatGPT has an enormous potential to impact organizations today. It's completely shifting the way we work, and people should embrace this as opportunities because we didn't have this in the past. So I look at it with this perspective because think about it, right? It has the ability to completely understand and generate human-like responses, right? So it can pick any topic, respond in any way. And except for that, it can even, let's say, allow you to do follow-up questions, understands when it makes mistakes. How many humans do that, right? Challenges the incorrect premises that you gave back, like, okay, I don't do this, I don't do that, and even reject inappropriate requests, which again, it's like you have all the tools you need to handle any type of situation that comes your way, right? So it's the golden ball that you can hold to actually improve your customer service, to engage with the audience, to focus on automating some of your operations, and think about how you can leverage it in any layer of your organization, because it has a tremendous potential. So I'm just thinking about the customer impact, because you can understand the way and reply back to each person individually by understanding their needs, their frustrations, their positive reactions, their negative reactions. So only on that, just impacting one person at a time, it's going to have a tremendous impact on you as a valuable organization. So I'm always open to the idea of try it out, see where it fits, but don't forget that, again, it has the limitations and the challenges you're mentioning about, and we should all be aware of that because we're humans. But then again, we're not perfect. Neither is ChatGPT yet, so we'll see how that goes.
I don't know.
Yeah, and David.
I don't know about you two, but when I'm sitting at work, I literally have a computer next to me dedicated to ChatGPT to basically dictate whatever I need, questions, emails, what have you, just asking questions in general and getting the answers quickly without having to go through a whole mining process. It's a tool that I've adapted to my everyday life, both on the personal and business side. And it's funny, I feel like within the very near future, probably in the next 30 or 60 days, I'm going to realize, how did I ever work without it? You know, it's become that much of a staple in my lifestyle.
Yeah, and we're adding a couple more buzzwords to the pile of buzzwords, Cristina: generative AI, large language models, all that fun stuff, right? So, but once again, how do we apply this practically to our work today, right? How can we take a large unstructured block of text, whether it's a customer review or an email, right, with a PDF that's attached? How do we extract it, analyze it, parse it, and then send it on in its automation journey, right? And really, at the end of the day, getting the voice of the customer, right? Do we see anything in that email? And I believe you made reference to this. Do we see anything in that email that is indicating maybe that, I'll take a banking or a financial institution example, that they're about to default on a loan or they're about to switch banks? What type of tone do we see in that email? And I think, based upon what I know of generative AI and LLMs, that's where it's headed, right? How can we apply it in those ways in the business to really catch things before they happen, right? So you're proactive rather than reactive. And I think that will lend itself to a better, positive, more customer experience, right? And it'll help employee engagement as a whole, because technologies, will be interconnected in a way that's powerful to the business. So Cristina, thank you so much for your time today. We appreciate it. Very well done on your accomplishments throughout your career. At any of our automation insiders that tune in and listen to this show, please look up Cristina on LinkedIn. She's very active in the community. If you live in the Europe area, she's at many different trade shows and conferences. We always hope that she'll come over here to the US and we can meet her in person over here too. But Cristina, thank you so much for your time. David and I truly appreciate it. And I know all of our automation insiders do as well. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much. Agreed. And have a great rest of your day.
So much.
Thank you.